are you all doing? Hopefully your day's going well. Let's see. Just getting up to the last little... I need to make like a script for this. Definitely need to make a script for this, I feel like. Okay. You know, it's like a bunch of websites. Not sure it'd be easy to script out. All right. What are we doing? Okay. Let's figure out what needs done. Let's get a little work done. And maybe test some stuff running. Got most of the things up. Oh, you know what? I think I only set up the audio in this one. Not also in this one. Oh, maybe I do. Maybe I do. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. So, fun thing here, I got something to help with the audio. Now, hopefully the audio still sounds good. I like nice clean audio for but I got it so that now hopefully I can play sounds from my computer through my streaming computer. It's something I haven't been able to do. So now hopefully if there is a sound that is on the computer, like we could do music. We could. I have music. So we could do music. I don't know how loud that is, but it's there. It's there. It's glorious. You know what the other really cool thing is? It seems about right. I don't know. Anyways, the other cool thing is now we can more freely talk about and about and all those other languages like it's great. We're going to be able to talk about all those languages a little bit more freely so that we can keep it PG-13. Yeah, I set all that up over the weekend. So dumb, but it should be so much fun. All right. Let's see. We need to work on Eddington. So what do we need to do with Eddington? Let's make some tickets and maybe let's get some work done while we're at it. Just a ticket stream isn't going to be that much fun. Have you guys ever used K9S? I think I'm going to do a Mighty Mini Monday on it. I've never actually got into using it because, you know, when I was doing some educational or a lot of educational stuff around Kubernetes, the tests are all with kubectl. That's like all you're allowed to use. And so I tried to target that group of people trying to learn for that. But it's actually pretty nice. You know, instead of doing a lot of watches, you can just do this. We can do all namespaces and watch all the pods. We can watch all the services and then just flip between the namespaces of the services. It's pretty nice. I am liking it. It's like half Vim commands, half custom commands, which is a little weird. Not gonna lie. But I'm starting to kind of like it. Yeah. All right. I also got WesTerm kind of configured. Let's check that out. Oh, you use another third party? What third party tool do you use? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What just happened? What's going on here? Oh, maybe caps lock. Ah ha 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 ha. Let's quit and abort that. I believe caps lock was on. I was like, what is going on? Okay, so small panic. I did this, which is hopefully going to let me use the multiplexing of WesTerm. Oh, lens. I like lens. Now that's more of like it runs in your cluster and you have something. K9s doesn't run in your cluster, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, obviously it's basically doing the same thing as running watches, but it's much faster to jump around than doing a bunch of aliases for a bunch of different watches and stuff like that. So I've liked it for not needing to run anything. I think lens has to run in the cluster, right? I think it does. I could be wrong though. If it doesn't, you have to give it. I mean, I'm sure it can work without it because all you'd have to do is run it somewhere and then give it the config to actually be in the cluster. How's the job search going, Dutch? All right. So this should help. So the mod is Control A. That's what I set up here. The leader. So Control A, and then I should be able to do stuff like Control A, and then not that. Control A. What is? Oh, because I'm in Vim. I think this is the problem. I needed to set up some sort of lock because being in Vim screws with it. Oh, cool. I'm glad you got a lead. So I want to do like a vertical split, which should be Control A minus. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, I set these up. Obviously, I haven't used them much. But got myself a vertical split. Perfect. You can do a vertical, and then I get a nice little thing. So awesome. I haven't gotten to, I have stuff here for adjusting the panel sizes. And we can move them. So I was messing with this. So like we have this panel down here and we can do Control A, H, Control A, Control. Ooh, what? So this is like moving between panels. I'm not sure I like that. I feel like I need to. And this, I'm not sure I like a ton of. I'm not sure I like a ton of this, but I have been working on it. I'm trying to see if I can use this instead of Zellage, because really I'm not using Zellage for like the SSH domains. I just wanted an easy way to do this. We'll see if this is easier in my quest for the easiest terminal setup. Not entirely sure yet. And honestly, the big question I have at this point is I use i3, and I'm not sure this isn't better than just doing something like this. Like i3 already gives me the ability to do this. So I don't know. Because I can just do it with i3. So maybe I'll do that. I think I need to add back a border. Like there's no border. I did this window decorations none. I need to find minimal. Because I think none is a little too much. It used to have too much, and I was like, I don't want all that. All right, configuration. What was this called? Window decorations. Yeah. Man, I kind of just don't want to learn Tmux, but maybe I should just learn Tmux. Like I know it well enough. I really hate Control B. I really hate, which means I'm gonna have to build my own key mappings. I know I have to build my own. Okay. So I know that I'm having to build my own key bindings for WesTerm because WesTerm basically effectively doesn't have default key bindings to do this type of stuff. My problem with Tmux is if I ever Google how to do something in Tmux and I've customized the key bindings, I'm now screwed. I am now screwed. Yeah, I think I like control space. I think the last time I was using Tmux, I did it with control space. With something that doesn't have anything, then it's like why I try to in general. I don't customize Vim. I like the fact that I can jump on any Vim and it's the same. But yeah. That's not what I wanted to do at all. What I thought I had, it's resize. Okay. I'm just going to type it instead of. But I think I'm just going to go to Tmux because I think like it's the most well known. And as long as I keep it minimal, like just doing control space, I think we should be okay. Shadow Dragon! Yeah, okay, yeah. Just change the leader key and then you'll be fine. I think you're right. All right, now I wrote that. Let's kill this window and all can. Yes. Let's see if I get a little bit prettier. Okay, so this is actually a little bit nicer. It doesn't look like much, but you notice my green bar, so I know where I was. That was gone with the border of none somehow. Somehow it messed with i3. And that was kind of a big deal to me because I didn't actually know. I was just guessing because it starts horizontal. So when I was opening it up, I didn't actually know where I was going to be. So that was kind of a bummer. I don't like gaps. I know. I know. I hate gaps. I am liking this. So I guess gaps really annoy me because I feel like screen space is precious to me. It's my precious. Don't take it away from me. And then like we put these silly little gaps in between our windows, and I'm just like, this line is good enough. Don't take up extra. Don't take my precious screen space. I'm gonna get burning right down the middle. I guess I'm gonna get burned into that line, but I do like this setup. How you doing, Shadow Dragon? Okay, so issues. Let's open up our issues because our issues are pretty bare, and we're just gonna walk through kind of the status of things. We'll write a little bit of code if we see easy things to fix or find a problem that we want to work on. So let me go here. I'm gonna just run this up here. We can watch this. Just came back from a good exercise routine. Oh, awesome. Good. Nice. At least one of us is getting a good exercise routine. That is one thing that I've been meaning to do better. Let's see. We'll go here. Oh, just working on Eddington, but you know, I think I'm going to merge this. It just kind of has the last couple of weeks of work. Feel like might as well. It's getting up there. 96 changes. It's getting up there in the size. We might go ahead and just merge that as a starting point. So tonight what we were going to do was basically just go through and touch the code a little bit, but also kind of create some issues that will help either myself, like I can just pick up an issue and go for it, or if somebody wanted to join in and work on it, it will be a little bit more involved. All right. So, I don't want to, let's not touch either of those. Those are rough. Yeah, create issues is basically, yeah, it's stuff we need to know. Okay, so there are two big things on my mind. One, this is not fun to test locally. There's no good way to, we have this Ori middleware, and what I really think that we need to do is when running locally, we need to basically inject a different middleware that basically allows all requests. That's not saying that we don't want to test Ori locally, but like in the grand scheme of things, you don't really want to test authentication locally. That's just not the fun thing to do. Job security. Well, if I got paid for this job, maybe it would be more security. Maybe. So let's see. I think the easiest way for this, and actually a way that people can get involved without doing a ton of stuff, is just to write a different middleware for debugging. I don't know why I'm capitalizing Ori, but I think you're right, Dutch, is that we'll need a debugging mode, which we don't have right now. So do we need to, we probably should make 2 tickets because and this one probably depends on the other one. We need to make a debugging mode, just a general one. Yeah, a development build, debug mode, basically just a flag. I think I'll leave it in this one because it at the beginning it can be a really simple thing. Just it should be a flag. Yeah. How do we actually want to do that? Do we want to do it by flag? I don't really feel like building it differently. So you're talking about like an actual different build. So one thing that I want to keep in mind while doing this, I would like, and this is something I try to do with all things security related, is I want the failure mode to be the secure. So basically, if I want the default to be with auth. Just pretend that's a U and not a half an A. I want the default to be auth. So basically, if you don't do anything special, you should have to do extra. The flag should be enabled to turn off auth, not that you add a flag for auth. That way, in production, when a flag gets missed to add, it doesn't actually make you less secure. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I went with auth right away. It's been a pain as it is. Auth is always a pain because it's like, oh, well, it really wants you to be at the right domain. And you're just like, well, I'm debugging locally. What do you mean? Yeah, so I think and yeah, secure by default. I think I just dropped my phone. 1 second. I did. Thankfully, the kids cracked my screen protector before me, so now I can crack that screen protector, and I still need to. Wait. Did I misspell middleware, or is it just not aware of how to spell middleware? I think it's just not aware of how we spell middleware. I'm not putting a dash in there. I don't feel like anybody puts a dash in there. All right. We're making a debugging mode. Let's be a little bit more prescriptive. Let's go with the environment flag. I think that will be the easiest way, and then we can mutate and update if we want. Having kids is fun. It's fun. It's definitely worth it and fun. It's definitely also rough sometimes. All right. This is a run-on sentence. Currently, we only support debugging with Ori. Period. Access to our Ori account or set up the Ori proxy. It would be better if locally you can test without Ori middleware. To achieve this, the API service should have a new flag called debugging that can be set to true or false. When in debugging mode, this message was sponsored by my kids. Oh. All right. When in debugging mode, the auth middleware should be disabled. By default, with no flag, auth should be enabled. All right. Every day is something new. Absolutely. You know what? I did not used to be a super patient person. I am a much more patient person. I'm not going to say that I'm like the most patient person. It depends on how much sleep I had. I'm trying to get better about doing this. Whenever I make an issue on a project, I know where people could get involved. I'm probably going to do this issue anyways myself, so it doesn't really matter. But what I'm trying to do is get better about throwing in a link to the code. So basically, I want to show them basically how it's used. So copy permalink. I feel like that's just a really, really nice, like, oh, this is where, it's enforcing the middleware on a route. So let's see. And then we can do really quickly just where we set up the middleware right here. All right. It's not even just, so like one thing that you can do here is mark this as a good first issue. Because I think it's actually a pretty good first issue. You really don't need to know much about the project other than locally you want to be able to hit those endpoints without auth. And so you could probably do that pretty easily without knowing any of the project. The really nice thing is not even just for people that don't know Go, but for people that don't know the project, this might be a good first issue, but if you don't give them where to start, I mean, Eddington has, if you look at Eddington's code itself, wow, I messed that up. I mean, we have several different things going on here, and this is just the API. There's things outside of the API as well. We have the container builder and things like that. So, yeah, it can be very daunting, to even know where to start looking. So I found this to be an issue when I got into Kubernetes a long time ago. It was very daunting to even know where to start an issue. And so that's one of the things I've been trying to be good at if I do contribute to an open source project, is being really good about like, oh, if this is a good first issue, actually doing the work to making it a good first issue. Just because it's an easy coding problem doesn't mean it's a good first issue if you give them no help at getting into it. And I realized that I could have gone into more, but I figure the only people that are going to get into this are the people on my stream, and so I'm not doing it anymore. All right. The other issue here with local debugging, that we have with local debugging that I know of, is when Ori registers a new user, they actually have a webhook call. So we can go to our Ori controller and look here, and basically this is the webhook call that registers a new user. And so basically this is how a new user gets. Now I'm contemplating changing this. And basically My thought here is, I don't know. So the problem here is basically this is what makes a user in our database. So without this webhook, even if you run locally, you have to make a call to this to add like your user, your local user. But we have another problem along with this. We have another problem. This is tough, and this is where like making an actual service, like making the Ori app not as a service, without login, without users, whatnot, it's way easier. All of this is dealing with actually having users. I think there's an ad going. I'm not sure. I'll continue though. So the issue is, even if we add a user, how do we know what user is making the request? And this is probably another thing that we need to do. So with our Ori middleware, what I think we should do is we should actually add the Ori user information into the headers. So basically, whenever this goes, we need to inject the user ID is effectively what we need into the headers. And then basically in our fake middleware that we build for this, we can inject a fake user ID into the headers. And then that fake user can always be inserted into the database when running in debug mode. That is the idea. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Because, yeah, we have to debug locally, but everything in here is tied around a user. Because if you look through like the create application, what this does is it makes this get user, which takes a user ID. And right now we're just passing the user ID to, because we don't have a user ID. But what we need to do is we need to get the user ID from the header, and we can pass that user ID through for the rest of our stuff. The other thing that we need to get better about here is actually making it so that we can trace this call a little bit better. It's a monolith for right now, so it's not really a problem because we only have one service to call the build. But as we break it out a little bit more, we need to get some good best practices in there. Okay, so what we need is auto user for debug mode. So when the debug mode flag is set, we should validate that there's a user in the database, and if there's not, we should add that user. When running in debug mode, check if user is in database. So running locally, we use SQLite. Running in production, we'll use Postgres for this database. Check if user is in the database, If not, add user. It's not really admin. It's just a user of the system. I was going to say admin, but that's not actually true. We'll do root with the ID. No, root is also not true. What is the stupid name of this user? I guess we could just do nameless. Really, the ID is the only thing that really matters. I was actually thinking with SQLite, we just check in the database. We just check in the database for local development that has like the users. Because we can also run like test case and integration tests. Like we're not integration testing Postgres. We're just like running some local tests, and it's almost a mock in itself. I shudder a little bit when I think about that. I actually don't like mocks. I know that I think my Discord adamantly disagreed with me, but I really don't like mocks. I think it's because we see it from two different perspectives. I have always worked on really big, really complicated systems. And every time I've seen a mock, I've never found it to actually prove something works correctly. And worst case, when I see heavy mocking, I find that it's because the code was written in a way where the business logic wasn't separated from the integration logic, or a lot of it wasn't. And I also think that's a problem. I do think one of the arguments that was brought up was for maybe mid-sized teams that are getting a little bit more complicated, but don't have necessarily the engineering capacity to do full integration or end-to-end tests. Mocks are better than nothing. And maybe I'll acquiesce to that statement, I think. What are your guys' thoughts? Am I getting myself in hot water? You don't like testing because not everybody understands it properly? That's not what I said. I said mocks. Specifically talking about mocks, not testing in general. Good testing is hard. I will say from engineering leadership, absolutely never do this. I have one thing engineering leadership should never do. This line. They should never set this line. What is this line? This line is 95% unit test coverage. Maybe 80. I actually don't care what the number is. Don't care about the number. This is a line you should never set. So, see, this is my problem, Dutch. This is my problem. Is if you're mocking for unit tests, it means that you haven't removed the logic from your integrations. And that logic should be outside of your integration, which means you don't need to mock it to actually test it. That would be my argument, Dutch, is exactly what you're saying. And that's why I say that, yeah, anyways, as engineering management, you should never do this. You should never make a bar for test coverage. If you want to encourage testing, go and tell them that they need to spend 10% of their time on tests. And you want to see an improvement in our reliability and things like that. This right here, what this causes you to do is write garbage tests that give you good coverage. This is what you'll find. You'll find that you've tested nothing and have fantastic coverage if you set that bar. So you just never do a percent unit test coverage. You just can't do it. It doesn't matter where you are. You can say, I'd like to see us get up to 50%, but you set a bar and you make it a mandate or you put a reward for it, you'll get this. You'll get this. All right, check if user is in a database. If not, add a default. User with ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That can be used locally. I feel like there's actually better work we can do to abstract out the core use of Eddington and users. So basically, if we did like maybe a little bit more work in the future, we could have it where the things that built Eddington didn't need to know about the user. So maybe for better example here, When we go and create a new application, we actually get this user controller, check the user for the right resource group. Basically, we have to get their information to see if they have a resource group that was named it. We can rework this a little bit where we basically make a call to see if it's a valid resource group. And then we make another call, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to do each of the things instead of getting all the information. That's step one. The second step is when we are creating a container, we pass on this owner and ID and stuff because it's also what keeps them from being able to query about other people's stuff. It namespaces it. So everything is namespaced out, which makes it a little bit difficult when you're thinking about multi-tenancy here. So the owner ID kind of gets tied to everything, which means it's hard to make it even if we do the stuff up here to make it a little bit better, the stuff down here is still pretty tough. I think. So I'm not saying that there's not ways to engineer it better to get around that. Just it's a little bit more difficult than just straight doing it. All right. If not add a user default. Yep. I think this depends on our other issue. So let's, it depends on this. Depends on, boom. All right. I think that will give them enough places to start. One thing that we'll have to do with this addition, we need to parse the user ID and add it to the header of every request for both the ORI middleware and the dev middleware. So basically the dev middleware just needs to add the dev middleware can just add the ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you don't make it, you don't change your call because you're just not sending your session token. Okay, Dutch, I think you and I are on the same page. I think that's what I'm saying here. So basically in the ORI middleware, I just want it to parse the header and put it in the header. So I want to parse the user ID out of the ORI session token and put it in the header. That's why I'm saying there has to be a user ID in all those calls because it has to get passed around. We don't need ORI at all those levels. I'm agreeing with you. I think I'm agreeing with you. It removes the ORI. It still has the user. I mean, it still has the user ID because everything has to know about the user ID. But yeah, just ORI doesn't mean anything at that point. So this will need updated as well as everything will need to be updated to do this. Yes, it removes the lookup. 100%, you're right. The middleware can just add the ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with this addition, we need to parse the user ID and add it to the header. What should the header be? Is it that into the header? What is the standard for custom headers? I think it's X something or other, right? X dash. I feel like there was more than that. All right, the recommendation was to start the names with X. X forwarded for, X requested with. Okay, that's what I thought it was. On June 20, the first I deprecated the recommendation of, I've always been using X, and this was a long time. This was before I was a software engineer. Ooh, I've been doing it wrong. Okay, 1 second. I know that it's must not, because I know there's applications right now in public that uses X. Okay, so we don't have to use X. Perfect. So our whole thing will just be in the header of user ID. Feels weird not to put the X on the front, I feel like. Of every request for both the Ori middleware and the dev middleware can just add the ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, while the Ori middleware needs to parse it out of the session token. Now, let's see what we do here. We already, let's see. Ori middleware, where are you? We get the session. Save the session to display it on the dashboard. I believe. What is the identity? Let's go. I believe this has the identity. I believe the identity is the identity unique identifier. ID is the identity's unique identifier. Oh gosh. I don't know why I feel like that's hard to read, but the identity ID. This is just saying the same word twice. Cannot be changed. Cannot be chosen. This ensures. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we already have it, and we're already adding it to our context. I don't know what this looks like. We might possibly be able to fake this out in the fake middleware. This is what very clear communication looks like. yeah. I'm with you, Dutch. That hurt me. That hurt my mind. I understand, but it hurt my mind. Oh no! Now you put identifier star in there. Is that a reference? Is that a reference or a pointer? Does that point to an identity, or is it a reference to an identity? Does it? And if we're in Rust, does it have ownership? Like, what's the ownership of the identity? I'm sorry. Oh. It went very difficult very quickly. Oh, okay. It is the pointer. I'm you're hurting my mind more than the oh. So we are saving it to the context. This context with value. Let's see. With value returns a copy of the parent in which the value associated with the key is val. So basically, for the key that we're giving, which is this rec session. So for this key, we will have this Ori session thing. So we should be able to go and get that. Now, I think the better thing here is just to add it to a header. I feel like adding our own header is better. And the reason is, obviously, this is on the downstream request, but it's going to be difficult to replicate because, like, it's all in a custom area. I feel like this might as well parse it out and put it in there nice. So we might as well, like, CTX equals with, I'm going to say with user ID header CTX session dot ID dot split. No, identity dot ID. There we go. Cool. And then I know I'm engineering this to write a ticket. I know. I got it. I'm making it a good first issue for somebody. Just to make sure I'm not smart enough to let's see. So this is going to be with a context and a, what was that? An I64. But wrong language, but ID of I64. It's int64 on Go. Sorry. Tell you what, going between Rust and Go, unfortunately, they have enough similarities where it does screw me up more times than I like. Okay, so now we need to let's see, CTX value, and then our key is going to be user ID, and our value is going to be ID. But it does not like that. Does not like that. Too many arguments to call. Oh, wait. My bad. I don't like this. Let's not do it like this. Let's do with value. I feel like with value is the cleaner way. I did it two different ways. I think this is maybe cleaner since we're just taking the session, but I think probably ID. I think that's cleaner. Why are you complaining? Why? Returns a copy of the parent. Wait. Too many return values. Oh. Well. Okay. I was only half there. Okay, so this should do what we're wanting to do. Return the copy of the parent in which the value associated with the key is val. Okay, perfect. It's on its own. We got this. This is a great first issue since I'm going to just post this code in there. Ori can do something like this. While the dev can do something like this. I'm just going to type it in here. That's how you know you're a pro programmer. You just wing it. I could have copied and pasted this first part. That was not programming. Up tab, no tab support. I want that tab. There we go. Return context with value, CTX, user ID. You know what we should do? We should put Eddington in there. That's actually a really good thing to do, especially when you get into apps that call multiple services. It's a good idea. That's right. This is how you know when you've made it. You just sometimes say screw it. And then it inevitably bites you. It inevitably comes around to hurt you. That's what happens. Don't get me. No. This is 10x. This is 10x. 100x engineer would be doing it in Vim, but instead of going into insert mode, they would not use insert mode to write it. That's the 100x engineer. No insert mode Vim. All right. So when running debug mode, check if user in the database. If not in the database, default user with ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can be used locally. If this does not read right, check if the user if the default user is not in the database, add a default user with ID 1, 2, 3, 4 that can be used locally. They would have filed the ticket from the command line. That's right. That's right. I should have used, what is it? I should have used, there is a command line for GitHub. I think it's GH. I think it's like GH is the command line. Absolutely. I'm scrub level, actually. This is maybe even 0.5x engineering. 0.5x. So. It feels bad to be this bad. Trust me, you don't want to be this bad. Okay, so knowing this, I want to go back and update the other good first issue. Well, actually, let me make this a good first issue too. Good first issue. Knowing this, though, I want to go back to this good first issue because it would actually make me design this differently. And by that, I mean where we have this here. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking here. What we need to do is basically inject the right controller. We need to build a list of controllers that do authentication and inject the right controller. So we should make two. So in debug mode, we should make a free pass middleware that gets added in that doesn't do any checks, but it should still have a middleware passed in. And it doesn't have to do the user ID stuff. That's kind of in the other ticket, but the proper fix to this won't be to just, because without that knowledge, you might be tempted to do something like if debug mode, and wrap that. And you're kind of just screwing the next ticket. Just kind of screwing the next ticket. So. Yes, am I writing tickets for myself? Probably. I like to have a well thought out ticket. If you're going to make a ticket, you might as well make it well, I guess. All right, to achieve this, the API service could have a new flag called debugging and get that true or false. When in debug mode, the auth middleware should be disabled. Wrong. Incorrect. Should be. You know what? Now I'm thinking. Do we make it just one auth middleware? Do we make it just one auth middleware where when you create this Ori abstract, we actually update it to auth, and we pass in debugging in here. And if it's debugging, this middleware just it's our own auth middleware. I think we do that. We just make this an auth middleware. That's what I would do. Because then we can have, like, you know, debugging here. And this solves. I don't really like the just flat flag in our auth. I almost would like it to be like a stack, and you can add one or the other to the stack, and then that thing is the thing that gets used. You know, like, I think maybe a better way to do this, instead of, because this is going to make the Ori why I don't like this. This will make the Ori authentication complicated. There's going to be if statements, and that means it's going to be prone to failing, and possibly even failing in a way that you don't want, where it doesn't authenticate or authorize what you want. So I think the better way to do this is we make a interface type authentication middleware something like this. We make this, and then we can make two different ones. This is what we're doing. Okay. This feels so much better than what I was saying. Currently, we only support debugging with Ori. This means you have to have access, blah, 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 whatever. To achieve the API, to achieve this, what in the world? Who was typing this? All right, to achieve this, the API service, you know it was me writing it and not ChatGPT because of how poorly it's written. The API service would have a new flag called debugging that can be set to true or false. When in debugging mode, the auth middleware, there should be a new middleware. And a new, let's see, the last thing that I have here, we did all that. I believe this is the middleware function. Let's see. So when we do the add using, we're passing this function. So that's all that the auth middleware interface needs to have is this session middleware. So that's fantastic. When in debugging mode, we should have a new middleware and a new okay. When in debug mode, there should be a new middleware and a new interface for authentication middleware called, what do we want to call this? My goodness, these are fantastic best first issues. I'm going to have to work on something else and let these smolder out there. because the amount of engineering I'm putting into making these issues. Okay, so this can be a little annoying. Like medium ones shouldn't have as much detail because engineers like getting in there and figuring stuff out. Like engineers like doing that. And you don't want to take that, you don't want to dictate every single thought. I'm only doing it for ones where I'm like, this would be really good for somebody that wants to get, like, this is the extra work that makes it, I can get into it. It's easy. I'm not doing this for every other one. Yep, dependency injection is fantastic. Dependency injection frameworks are the worst. It's so funny how we as engineers take fantastic things and make them horrible. I don't know how many times I have said that. Like, do I love dependency injection? Yes. Do I support dependency injection frameworks? No. I don't know. I feel like we take a good thing and then we love on it too much. It's like when you love your children just too much and you spoil them. It's just not good. You spoil that good thing. Don't spoil your frameworks, okay? Don't love on them too much. Treat them like crap sometimes. Don't take parenting advice from me. Also, not parenting advice. I don't treat my children like crap. Joking. All right. What do we want to call this middleware? The session middleware. That's a funky function name. I copied and pasted that. There's no way I ever named my thing session middleware, my function. We're going to go with session middleware. That's fine. New authentication middleware called auth middleware that should have a function called by default with no flag auth. The ORI auth should be enabled. Okay. When you debug, there should be a new middleware and a new interface for authentication middleware called authentication middleware, and it should have a function called session middleware. The new debugging auth should effectively be a no op. All right. Boom. Better issues. I feel good. I feel like we made 2 pretty decent issues. Also, I need to push this code. Not the crappy stuff we've written. Just undo. Okay. I have this big PR that's just sitting out there. All right. What else do we need to do? So at this point, we have actually, those are 2 pretty big tickets that are holding up a lot. I've tested almost every single piece of this individually, but it's hard to actually test locally what's going on. Another issue that we have is I configured ORI. Let's see. We're going to open up another code here. I configured ORI poorly. Surprise, surprise, I screwed up with a system that I've never used before. Let's see. Oh, Are one of you guys good at security? Because I have a real question, that I want to ask. And I want a person that's like really delved into some security issues, because I know like high level stuff, but I have a little bit of a lower level question. This is what I wanted. This one right here. I believe I put the Ori stuff in here. All right. So I was looking into HTMLX. I have to put the L in there. It has to be HTMLX because, my goodness, HTMX is, I don't know why I can't say it. I have to say HTMLX. Anyways, in HTMX, there was this whole thing about cross-site scripting, about how basically, effectively, HTMX is cross-site scripting as a service. And my big question here is, validation on the client should only be for UX. Validation at the server should always be happening. You have an API. You should never trust what anything is sent to that API. That's my belief. So it means that the server is still safe. HTMX doesn't pose a threat to the server. But my question with HTMX is, with cross-site scripting, is basically, per my understanding and what we've done, is where the front end is allowed to communicate, what back ends it's allowed to communicate. Usually you limit it to yourself and maybe a partner or something like that. And so, it can only communicate with those. And if it doesn't communicate with those, your framework is going to reject it anyways. Is that true with HTMX? I saw a debate, but I don't think people talked about the security of the front end, like the front end trust. They were talking about the back end trust, which I think is a completely different subject and not affected by your HTMX, because the back end should validate its own things. Like, it should parse its own stuff. Like, so that's not even a question, effectively. Now, I do believe that HTMX lacks the validation in the UI that you can do. You have to actually make a server round trip, which I would say kind of actually sucks. But other than that, it's an interesting point. Did that make sense? Possibly not. Let me draw it, because I'm a pro drawing person, because that's what I am. All right, this is the question. This is your front end. I'm going to denote it with a little gravestone there, because if I'm making a front end, that's what it looks like. So this, I don't know why I did a P. This is a front end. And this is the back end. So my question here is, basically anything that gets sent here this way, the backend should validate it. So I don't need validation logic here to protect my server. I don't need that. This is not needed in the front end, because I can safely offer a service publicly, an API publicly. Your public API, even if it's just for your own web page, can be hit without a browser. Like that's just the thing about it. So you should always be sanitizing the inputs here. My question here is, how do you know it's this server sending you a response, or another server that's sending you a response, or another server over here that's sending you a response? Right? Does HTMX protect you, validate that you're only talking to the backend services that you want with cores, right? I couldn't look this up very easily. I was trying to understand this better. And the people that I found were all talking about backend validation. Like, how do you know that you got valid code? And I would tell you that if you're talking about the front end doing validation for the back end, you're doing it wrong. The back end has to validate, period, for safety and security. But how do I protect my front end? That's what I don't know. I'm not saying that HTMX doesn't have it. I don't know. And I couldn't find it out because everybody was talking about validating the backend, which was frustrating to me because that's not the question. And maybe I don't know the keyword to be asking here because maybe there's a better way to word that search. I just don't know. That's the question. Oh, Shadow Dragon, you got modded for sex-based terms. Oh, try to understand TCP a little then. I was reading on TCP connections have a three-way handshake. The three-way handshake was the the three-way handshake was what got modded. Get your mind out of the gutter, Twitch. All right, the three-way handshake. So if the front end is sending a certain request, TCP, yes. If I send a request here and get a response back, you're right. If I'm using TLS, TLS will validate that. But what if I make a request over here? Should I be allowed to make a request over there? Because what if you have an input box that says, tell me the server that you want to hit, but it's supposed to be one of my servers. But you get a person that puts in a malicious server and they put that malicious server's number in, or they get them to click a thing that gets the front end to go to that malicious server. That won't save you from, TLS won't save you from that. TLS will say that I made a request with the TLS and I can validate that that's the right backend server because it has a TLS certificate. TLS will protect you from, TLS validates that you're hitting the right backend server. My question here is not that how do I validate that I hit the right server? It's how do I make sure that people don't get people to make the front end request from a different site? Right? That's what a CORS attack is, right? How can somebody put an input field on your website? Well, there's a lot of input fields on my website, right? And I'm also not a hacker. But I mean, this is what a CORS attack would be, right? Is where they redirect this request somehow, right, to a different place. I mean, that's what a CORS attack is. A cross-site scripting attack. Like I said, I'm not an expert in this. This was just me thinking, and I wanted to understand it from a CORS aspect, not a TLS. I understand the TLS fairly well. I'm only a noob at CORS attacks, though. I've not actually launched any. I need to do a hack the box on CORS, I think, to understand CORS just a little bit better. Okay, sorry for that sidetrack. I got really sidetracked on that. The only way you can protect against that is having a unique second token tied to a logged in session. That, oh, okay. That's a unique way. Okay. What got me on this? This had to do something with, I I got on it because I was thinking about this. So this is actually a bad template. Surprise, surprise! I wrote a bad template. Um, so it turns out I don't have these things. I don't have them. So Ori can't put them in the webhook call because we don't have them. Now, I think part of fixing this is that I actually want their name. When you sign up, I want your name and email, and this newsletter consent. So I want a checkbox. So I think this is actually adding this to the login page. Not, I could just remove these things, but I kind of want them. So I think that's what we need to do. Yeah. So let's add that. That's a good piece of front end work. I should have a front end label. I do have a front end label. I think it's a default label. I don't think I created it. Maybe a good first issue. Should ask for, I'm not going to do, should I do first name and last name? I feel like no. I feel like I'm just going to do name. And I don't, maybe I should do first name and last name. Yeah, I'll just do with name and we can regret it later. Login should ask for name and consent. Is that how you spell consent? I don't know. Newsletter consent. That's request forgery, which is a little different, right? But, you know, I am getting out of my depths here. I need to read up more on this. Because a request forgery is a little bit different than cross-site scripting, but they're in the same vein, I think. A cross-site request forgery is a type of attack that occurs when a malicious website, email, blog, instant message, or program causes a user's web browser to perform an unwanted action on a trusted site when the user is authenticated. So basically, you've logged into my site, now you're on their site, and they get you to do something without it. This is the reason? This is... Okay, the only reason this would be valid is if you were asking to be a developer at a security. Like, I feel like then maybe this could be valid. You need to know what a CSRF attack is and how to mitigate it. Okay. I guess, maybe. That's what you're looking for. Dude, not vanilla anything is tough. I'm struggling here with not vanilla. All right. Where's my tab? Here we go. Login should include the extra fields, name and newsletter consent. Name is required. And consent is not. And newsletter consent is not. A news setter. All right. Ori add custom fields. Not quite what I wanted. Ori custom fields. Sign up. I just want to add some user documentation. Here we go. Okay, the other thing that we could do is we could do this on first sign in. So effectively we could leave everything and we could get rid of the webhook as well. Because we could leave everything blank. And if they log in with a valid Ori session with a valid ID and they don't exist anywhere, we can step them through new user sign up. Should we just do that? I feel like that's like the more professional way to do it. Let's just do that. Let's see. User. And then we also don't have to worry on the webhook, because I know that was a problem because there was no way to set a debugging webhook. So there's no way to actually get other places. All right. User sign up flow should be updated where new users on first login are asked for their name and newsletter consent. Gabs, please. Ever done Kubernetes bare metal? What is K9S looking at right now? Let's dig into this a little bit more. Let's look at our nodes here. Yeah, these are bare metal machines. We can go ahead and SSH into them if you'd like. Uh-oh. That should have worked. But we have been messing with our terminal, so let's just give it the actual IP address. I flexed too hard. Flex too hard. That should have worked because I have custom SSH config, but we've been messing with it. So this is actually our server running here, our null server here. We can actually look for their IP addresses if you like. Oh, cool. Well, welcome to the team, Gibbs. Very nice. Very nice. Well, congratulations and welcome to the pain. Well, I mean the opportunities. Shadow Dragon, I'm glad that you've set your custom SSH config. It's really quite wonderful. It's really quite until it doesn't work for some reason. Until that, it's really quite wonderful. I actually think, let me know what you think. I think this upcoming Monday, I'm going to do a Mighty Mini Monday on K9S. I have liked it for the little bit of utility that it has, and the ability to just, tab completion for all of the stuff, and then the ability to switch through the different namespaces and see all my services, I stayed away from using it for so long. And then, I can go and I can just look at the logs here and, even which container in the logs, like this is actually pretty cool. And once you get used to the half Vim, half not Vim, it's really easy to get around. Basically, yeah. So Gebs, okay, so that settles it. I'm doing a Mighty Mini Monday. So I have a YouTube channel where I do little educational things. There's a link in the stream description, so please go ahead and check it out if you like. But basically, K9S is a TUI for that. The cool part is it can look at multiple clusters, so you can look at your contexts. And you can see I have my local cluster, and this is actually the one running on machines. So you can switch between your context information here. And the other really great thing that it provides is a lot of times I find myself wrapping kubectl commands with something like to retry it and wait and watch it. A lot of watching, and this does that for you automatically. So this Monday, I'm going to do a little Mighty Mini Monday. It's just a 5-minute little video on something I think could be helpful. A lot of times it's like a little tool. K9S is pretty cool. I stayed away from it because I do a lot of educational content. And I've always thought that if I use kubectl, that's what people will be leveraging. And so I always wanted people to be really familiar with kubectl, because if you're trying to get a certificate, you got to use kubectl, which is kind of stupid, but I think K9S is pretty cool. You can pass in the context here if you want. There's a couple options, but you can just jump right into it and start looking at logs. It's pretty cool. All right, 1 control, 2 workers. My ingress is working, but I want to be able to expose services over the LAN. Okay, so tell you what to do. I will show you how to set this up. I actually have a video that I plan on releasing. This is running our whole cloud experience. So when you want to sign up for, the null cloud, when you can sign up for it, this is all running off of that cluster. This website, everything is running off of this cluster that you see over here. So ingress, load balancing, everything is running off of this bare metal cluster. So the way to do it, let's jump into all namespaces. If you're doing bare metal, you don't have a whole lot of options. Metal LB is going to be a great load balancing solution. Now, I have used Metal LB just with Metal LB and not Istio, but the step 2 to sweeten that deal a little bit was to slap on Istio. Now, Istio, I would not recommend you tread into Istio without knowing what and why you're getting into it. You can do this with another ingress controller, and there's other ingress controllers that you can do it. I needed Istio for other reasons. So I am treading with Istio. I highly recommend you not use Istio. Find another ingress controller. There's an Engine X ingress controller I've heard good things about. There is what's the metal, the gosh dang it, I can't remember its name. It's not Istio. It's the other thing that's a service mesh that also has an ingress controller. There's a Kong ingress controller. There's a lot of ingress controllers is my reason. If you want an ingress controller, look up one. You don't need Istio. But Metal LB will give you ability to have load balancers. So actually we can switch over to services here. And you can see that a lot of these are cluster IB, but I actually have load balancers. And these load balancers, let's see, we'll look at Argo CD. This is where we can access Argo CD. Okay, so this needs to be embiggened a little bit, but what we're going to do, instead of doing that, we can just jump over to Firefox and we can do 10.1.151, I think is Argo CD. Yeah, this is my Argo CD and is exposed through the Metal LB load balancer. So you can see that's how I would expose it on LAN. If you're saying that you don't want like DNS and ingress behind it, I would just throw it on Metal LB. And then you can even do if you have your own DNS servers, you can register these IP addresses in your own DNS servers. So if you run local DNS like I do, I can actually give this a DNS name if I like. Now you can also run that DNS inside your cluster and use that DNS service for this. That's another complicated setup, but we can talk about it. Yeah. I don't consider, okay, I thought when he said niche, I thought he was talking about Kubernetes bare metal. I feel like that is a little niche. I just maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Kubernetes ingress is niche. Or Kubernetes bare metal is niche. That's more of my going argument. Well, DNS just resolves to these IP addresses made by the load balancers, right? Dutch, do a lot of companies have their own bare metal machines? I'm not talking EC2 either. I'm not talking EC2. There's a lot of things to support a cluster on EC2. I mean, like you have the machines and you're networking them. I don't know. I don't think a lot do. I agree. You name me a company, I can name you a few. But even the larger ones run it in managed systems. So Gebs, if you're looking here, you can see the DNS would point to this. This is the external IP address that Metal LB is giving you. Oh, really? Now, Gebs, I'm going to give you a little secret here. I'm going to give you a little secret. Check this out. I highly recommend you use this. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Actually, we're almost out of support. We're on version 124. We need to upgrade our cluster. So maybe we'll do that one of these streams here soon. We got to upgrade it to 125 and then 126. We'll probably try to do 2 upgrades. We'll figure out the first upgrade and then we'll do another one. But K0S is pretty cool. You get to describe check this out. I get to describe my cluster, where the API servers are, what CNI I use with default policies. I get to describe it like this, and then I can just apply it. I'm kind of surprised, Dutch. Actually, honestly, I am. So, you know, I work with companies that run databases, and a lot of them run in managed clusters, not bare metal. But I mean, obviously, I'm wrong. I would have said it the other way, the 20% and 80% run in managed, but again, obviously. You think everything but Microsoft? That's not true. The truth is, that's actually absolutely wrong. Dutch, there's actually Microsoft containers where you can actually just containerize Microsoft. The only system that cannot be containerized is macOS, period. It's literally impossible. Just impossible. I've never used a Windows container. Has anybody used a Windows container? Are they a real thing? I see all the patch notes and stuff, but I don't believe they're a real thing. Enterprise security solutions. I don't know. I guess no, I haven't either. Usually those are like physical appliances, though, I feel like. Like they're like your... All right. We were writing this ticket, though. On your first login, your user will have no information tied to the user. Ew, semantic. Ugh. Gross. Gebs, do you do a lot of security stuff? You missed it. I had a quandary of a security-related topic. Would have been good for you. I'm not a security person, by far. Why would those require running? Okay, so I could see some that like do scanning. Like if you do port scanning, you'd have to have root effectively anyways. I guess you could do it from a container. You're just doing root privileges anyhow. So anything that requires root, which then if you wanted to run that in the same system, it's better to isolate them with a VM. But yeah, I don't know. On your first login, your user will have no information tied to the user. They should be presented with a screen that lets them give their name as well as their consent. I really want to put a C in there. Send for a newsletter. Name is required. Well, cool, Dutch. I honestly didn't. I haven't encountered a bunch of people doing bare metal on like bare metal. I've seen some doing bare metal in the clouds, which I think is a little cheating, if you ask me. It's a little bit cheating, but it's fine. Do I need... Like more recently, people are running. Okay, that's maybe true. Also, I think it depends. So I've been thinking about it now. We got acquired by a flash storage. So after I said that, I've been thinking about it. If you're talking about somebody like Rancher, so when I worked for SUSE Rancher, a lot of those installations were on bare metal. Now, obviously, so SUSE, a lot of them were bare metal. Rancher had, I would say, maybe split 50-50. Rancher managed a lot of like GCP and whatnot. It was a nice management plane for your managed clusters is what people would like. But SUSE's containers as a service, CASP, Scuba, those were all mainly run by bare metal people. So I see it. And I think it also depends on industry. So I think maybe because I know like let me generalize this, like the automotive industry almost without doubt does not run in the clouds. Like they might have their website run in the cloud, but like their data center that they're running their models and stuff on 100% is their own bare metal machine. Hey, look at that. Almost, but not really coworkers meeting live on stream. It's touching. Almost not really. Yeah, almost not really. Not at all, but you guys could have been on calls together. I think this is good. It's a nice relationship. It's like you know, my sister-in-law got married. So technically, I have no relationship to her husband. Now, obviously my wife, it's a brother by law, a brother-in-law, but to me, technically there's no relation. But I call him my outlaw. It's like a nice relationship. It's like an undocumented, unknown, unexplored relationship. Your brother outlaws. It's nice. It's nice. Yep, we're all working to get Dutch a job. So if you know of something, you should post it. If you know a place that's looking, my job is to get you guys super well employed so that you... That was going to be a joke. You know what? Actually, I need to edit this. It should be presented with a screen that gives them their name as well as their... that gives them... One second. This is worded poorly. They should be presented with a screen that lets them input. Oh, I need to go edit. Their name as well as their consent for a newsletter for... Yeah. On the first login, your user will have no information tied to the user. This will have minimal work tied to the back end. You'll have to get that. All right. Other issues. Portworx seems to be the thing to use. I have not used it. So maybe I'll have to give it a shot. Add issues for new project types. Well, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Oh, yes. Actually, you want to know a secret? I know that you do want to know a secret. Let me open, let's see, Eddington. Let's just open straight Eddington. I know that Go will be angry opening the root project like this. How dare I? But if we look at our container builder, let's go in here and we look in here. It's not actually red. This is just because Go is a broken language. We can get into why I'm a little salty. We can get into it. I am only a little salty. This is not what I create container. Let's see. We actually only support Go right now. Is what I was going to show you. This build pack right here. Let's see. Oh, F12 doesn't work because all of its types are because it's a broken language. 1 second, I can find it for you. Basically, Go's the only one that's. Oh no, we have Python Node. Oh man, okay, so Jabril actually is the one, or Nighthound is the actual one that did this. So he updated it to Node and Python. So that's cool. We should add a different one. And this should be a good issue because it will document where to add the stuff. Rust. Rust needs to be added. Oh, man, I can't believe Rust isn't on there. My goodness. I'm not going to label this one good first issue because nothing terribly is hard about it, but it actually requires 2 services to talk together. So I feel like maybe not. Yeah. Back to the Kubernetes. How does MetaLB assign IP addresses? By magic. By literal magic. Do I need to create a VLAN and make it routable locally? And when I mean, the VLAN would be up to you. So how you want to do your physical networking is up to you. I would say be careful when you're running a bare metals cluster because how large you want the cluster to grow, as well as how many pods you plan, like how much you want to slice it up, actually matters. But how you do your physical address doesn't matter. But what you do want to do on your physical network, whatever you do for that, whether it's a VLAN, whatever, blah, 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 you could do different network ports for your management control plane and whatnot. However you do it, you want to set aside a certain range of IP addresses for MetalLB. So check it out, MetalLB. And MetalLB has basically 2 ways to do those IP addresses. So you have the L2 and the BGP. So basically, this depends on what your router and whatnot work with. So L2 is basically what anybody can do. And if you have a router or switch that supports BGP, you can use BGP. And this is just how you configure it. If that doesn't make sense, I can go further into it, but check this out. My guess is if you have industrial equipment, you should actually support BGP, and you should go with that one. And then basically you give it your IP address range that you want to use here. There's a lot of configuration, but you give it the range that you want to use. If we're looking at hours, so this is my metal LB, and you can see that I'm giving it the range from 50 to 150. That's I have 100 IP addresses for metal LB to hand out. And so then my router has those reserved. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You want to use metal LB. That's what I've been saying this entire time. I don't think you've been listening to me. I said, get metal LB. Make publicly routable external IP addresses that are external to your Kubernetes cluster. I said, look, see this? 10.1.1.51. I said, look, 10.1.1.51. Oh, look, there it is. It's amazing. I'm sorry, this is my late night stream. I get a little spicy on late night stream. I'm much chiller on Saturday mornings, especially because I'm usually tired. So I'm a little bit chiller. But yeah, metal LB is magic. It's literal magic. I mean, obviously it's not, but it's just BGP peering, and it works. It just works. I'm using mine. I'm not actually doing it with the peering. I could. I didn't do it because it was more complicated setup, and I didn't care. I have Ubiquity, so like it actually supports it, so I could if I wanted to. But the other one works just fine, and I'm fine. I'm fine. All right, we're back. We're back. All right. We should natively support Rust projects. Okay. Dutch. What one were you thinking? What project type should we support? What was your thought? We currently have Go, Node.js, Python. What's another great one? And I'm sorry, I meant to say. I can actually beep that out now to make this more child friendly. Rust is on there because I love Rust, but this is not about me. This entire project is because I decided I didn't want to manage infrastructure for my Twitch alerts, my sweet Twitch alerts. But Rust is for me, not for my community. What's the community one? Okay. That might not be so straightforward. So basically you want a content delivery platform. Yes, I've used, written, and hated Ansible, Terraform. The problem, Gebs, is not that these tools are bad. The tools are fine. The fact is, it was a bad way to solve the problem. What problem do we want? We want a way to not care about infrastructure. Let me draw. I love drawing. Ignore this. This was me thinking. All right. What we have is we have service A and we have service B. And both of these have a database back here that they connect to through, this is probably something like a Postgres. And, it's a well-known URL. And, we'll even say that this one is something else. This is some other database, other DB. Well-known configured URL. We have these two databases. We also want an event system. We want event systems, events that flow from one of these to the other one. This is what we want. Now, to do this in a cloud provider, we write Terraform or rewrite Ansible that spins up databases, that makes users in the database, that makes that exposes the database at a certain place, that manages the machines and the sizes of this database, and it does all of that. And that's just for this database. Now we have this other database that we have to do the same thing for. And then that's not even our application yet. We're not there yet. We're not to our application. Now we need to make this event. We need to spin up Kafka. We need to spin up the machines for Kafka. We need to configure Kafka for our services but we're not to spinning up our services yet, because now we've got to make an API gateway here, or something. I'm just going to say API gateway, but whatever. API gateway with some load balancers, maybe. You know, we might have a load balancer in here, LB, and all we wanted to do in here, is expose this to apps. This is all we've wanted to do this entire time. And now we have all of this code managing every single aspect of this. And we wanted these two apps. Now we can write the Terraform or Ansible for these two applications. And you know, if it's Terraform, you might run Terraform, then Ansible. I'm sorry that this turned into a rant, but this is what this entire project is for. My goal, my hope and dream, is that you say, I want service A, and I want service B, and everything else just magically appears. You literally just point it at git repo service A, git repo service B, everything magically appears. If you configured a Postgres URL, will automatically stand up Postgres at that URL for you. If you've and configure the whole connection between the two. If you've configured a communication through events, will automatically stand up the infrastructure for the events and configure your apps to communicate to each other for you. So all you have to do is write service A and service B, and that's all you have to do. That is Project Eddington. That's what we're doing. And sorry for the rant. All right. Okay, how about C, C++? I mean, no one is going to take us seriously without one of those. Okay, so I don't know if you're trolling right now. I don't know what you guys are trying to do to me. Either... Do people run C++ in the cloud? I know that they do. Not many. So we need a content delivery. We need a front-end delivery mechanism. Gebs, it's turning into a complex project. I am working very hard to keep the core as simple as possible. And so our core right now, let's see, I have written this out. Our core right now here is this. Basically, we have two applications, the API service, which is kind of a monolith, and then a container building service. And then this basically runs your application in a namespace that is sandboxed to you on a Kubernetes cluster that also is running gvisor. I thought about running them in VMs, but for right now, gvisor seems to be doing a good enough job, so we're just going to go with that. When we move into more production, maybe we do VMs. Maybe we do each namespace gets its own VM. Who knows? There's a bunch of different ways we can do it. I'm keeping it pretty simple, so we just have these two services for right now. But this is the basic thing, and right now what it does is you can point me at a Git repo, and I will run that. I will build that Git repo. I will build a container for you, an optimized container for you, and I will host it and put it by a URL. All right, Dutch, question. Which is more important? A content delivery Basically, we have that too. We already have that, and it's working. We support Go, Node.js, and Python. I bet you they use pack build packs just like we do. We're just using build packs, and we just need to get a build pack. There's a bunch of them. You name it, we probably have it. All right, Dutch, my question. What is more important, C++ application support or content delivery network? So basically front-end network. Now, I could skip the content delivery network by supporting Next.js. I could support Next.js because that runs in a container. So, Next.js, content delivery service, or C++. I mean, we can do all three, actually. We'll do all three right now. I mean, but when we're prioritizing, which one do you think is more important for people? Static files all right, then we'll do content delivery. I'm going to add this one, and I'll do low priority. Low priority. Won't fix it. No, not won't. I don't know that anybody else wants to host Rust, but obviously I love Rust. All right, you all are voting for a CDN, so we'll have to do CDN. You know what? That's one thing I have never done is a CDN. I've never done it. I have no idea how to do it. I'm going to have to Google. I'm going to have to Google quite a bit. Like a lot of these things, I'm like, oh, I have ideas. I've done it. I have ideas how not to do it. A CDN, I'm just not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how people do CDNs. Like, I get the basics. Don't get me wrong. I've run an Apache web server. But how do you provide a CDN as a service? That's what I've never done. And by Google, yeah, I guess I'll chat GPT. 1 second. Here we go. Write me a CDN in Go, please. We'll come back when that's done. We'll come back. Oh, Gebs, get out of chat. Get out of chat. I know you're just trolling. I know you're trolling. So I'll forgive you this once. That's a pretty cruel way to troll, though. I mean, that's pushing the limits there. That's pushing the limits. Gebs. Tried it for 2 days. You can't be good at anything in 2 days, especially the superior language. I don't even know what language you're comparing it to, but I'll put it up there. I think about the only thing that has on it is like chicken. Chicken might be the only better language that's easier to learn. What do you like, Gebs? I mean, I write Go and I write Rust. I do write Rust. Hopefully don't mind sticking around. Oh, Gebs, did you... Wait. Did you just follow? Okay, I have a question. Did an alert pop up? It might not be through yet. It has to do some work. How long ago did you... 1 minute. It should be through now. I wasn't looking. Did I not configure it to So check this out, Gabs. I made my own Twitch alerts in Rust. Maybe that's my problem. But I don't know if the Twitch alert showed. Did it show? All right, well, Gebs, you got a custom message, whether you saw it or not. Let's actually see that a little bit a little bit bigger. In case it didn't, in case you didn't see it, you got a custom followed notification. All right. And it was supposed to have a custom message, but I think maybe the front end is still broken. In a realm shattered by chaos, Gebs, a stoic paladin, sought unity against impeding darkness. Amidst whispers, he encountered the Null Party, inanimate warriors with vanished identities. Oh, this is fantastic. Oh. Initiating a perilous trial, the party proved their worth. Unveiling a plot to unleash evil upon the land, bound by destiny, Gebs and the Null Party pledged their swords, fighting an unbreakable brotherhood to combat the encroaching shadows. Victory or oblivion awaited. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. And there's your custom message. It should have shown on the stream. I'm not sure that it did. Anyways, that's written in Rust. It's pretty fantastic. All right. So we're gonna add this. Then we're gonna do a little bit CDN looking up. All right. So it's funny. You know what's funny is I have my entire closest following, the people that come here the most. Dutch. I'm putting you in this, Gebs, as well. Russell. All of these people are C# people. And I write Rust and Go. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do a C# stream just for you guys. Just for you guys. I'll do a C# stream. All right, we should natively support Rust projects with a Rust build type. That's all I'm going to write. Now what I want to write is CDN. Hard mode. No. I want a new label called hard mode. Hard mode. This color needs to... Can I get a color picker? Yeah, let's go with that one. Hard mode. Not to be taken lightly. Let's see what ChatGPT wrote up for us. Oh, okay. Do you guys want to know something? Is the worst about frameworks. It's literally the thing that made me swear off dependency injection frameworks. Like, I love dependency injection, but as soon as you talk about a framework, I shut down. And it's because of Java. I don't know what it is. But labels, hard mode. All right. We need something like Jay's. Possibly. You know what? I don't even think that it's a bad language. I think that it's effectively C#, and I know all of you C# lovers just hated me. But I feel like if you looked at the language side by side, they're really, really close. Really close. Now, to admit, I've written and not C#. But I wrote a lot of it, too. I wrote a lot of it. But I feel like it's the culture, it's the environment around it. I feel like it's not even effectively the language. I feel like it's more the community and what they do than the actual language. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so this is actually twofold problem. It's probably all one problem. But we have static sites and we have static site building. I feel like static site building is going to be a different step. So effectively, I can host your static site, but I can't build your static site initially. This is just going to be hosting an already built. So you can build it in a pipeline and deploy it to me, or you can point me to a Git repo with all the static stuff already built. I can't. And then we can add in pipelines to build, like I think Hugo is a pretty big static site generator for Go, and we could put in a Hugo build. So like basically if you have a Hugo project, I can do the build for you and generate the static stuff and host it all for you. But that would be supporting Hugo specifically. We need a CDN first, and then we can add the other support for the other stuff. Well, cool. I would say about half my streams are Go, half are Rust. Half are issues. It's not true. I don't do this often enough. We need a CDN that people can deploy their static site to. This does not include work to make a build pipeline for the static content. Go is super easy. If you failed at Rust, you can probably get Go. I'm sorry. Go has particular foot guns. I think Go has two problems. Go has three problems. We'll talk about package management. I will release a video on Go's package management. So that's one. The other one is sometimes it's overly simple, where I wish that it would be a little bit more assertive. Like, it doesn't force you to check every case statement. It doesn't force you to handle possible nil values. So you're more likely to actually access a nil value than you are in something like Rust, which is a shame. I wish it would do more of those. The other thing is, like, there is no pointer syntax. So like when you access a pointer versus a value, like this is my var here, this would be accessing both the pointer and the reference, which is a shame because it makes it simple. And at first, when I was a noob, I was like, that's great. But now when you go back and read your code, it makes it hard to know whether you're touching a pointer or a reference. So I kind of don't like it. The other thing that makes it hard, which I think is the real foot gun in this, is that this and this are wildly different, and they have big implications, and Go effectively hides that from you. So those would be my foot guns with it. But picking up Go, you can pick it up and run and build something in a day. Easy. Easy, 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 easy. All right, let's see. Writing a complete content delivery in Go from scratch is quite an extensive project that involves multiple components and a deep understanding of networking, caching, load balancing, and other related concepts. However, I can provide you with a simple example of a basic CDN-like server in Go that demonstrates some key principles. This example won't cover all the complexity of a real CDN. Come on, I wanted a real CDN. In this example, we'll create a simple reverse proxy server that acts as a CDN for a single origin server. The reverse proxy will handle incoming requests, fetch. So for our CDN, effectively, we want we want some files. Files, and we want a reverse proxy that, points to these files. And then we need a route. Public route. A load balancer, ingress, whatever. You guys are going to hate me. But hold with me. What can we do? What do we support already? What do we support already? All right, now this is going to be a provisional that this is V1, and then V2 of our content delivery network will be something better. Because this is not a good final solution, but an initial solution that will let people do basic things. Are you guys ready? Oh, yes. Yes. Let's see. Text align right there at the top. Let's just throw this in a container. And we support everything. So we basically support a content delivery. And what it's going to do is it's going to make a container with Nginx reverse proxy with the files in the Nginx HTTP folder. And we're going to serve it on a public route, which we already support everything in here now. This is everything. This is actually pretty simple to do. Does this sound like a plan to do? Should we do this for version 1? Like, obviously, this starts to break down if you want to start talking about putting these static files in an edge location and other things. So I actually think static files is a place where this is not the best way to do it. Unless if we want to run Kubernetes on the edge to get, those edge things. But we don't have an edge. We don't have a data center yet. So until we have those things, and we would need multiple data centers to run it on the edge, until we have those things, can we just do this dumb, simple thing? Do we like this, or do we cringe? Or do we do both? Do we like it and cringe at the same time? You can be honest with me. I feel like that's where I'm at. I like it, and it's cringy. We need to see that people can deploy their static sites. Do you guys love my spelling? My goodness. That's how I want to type it. I don't know why I keep typing a GH in there. Whew. And now I saved it, of course. All right. Let's do dumb and simple. Being Dutch, you totally get that. I didn't mean to laugh out loud. Oh, man. Yeah. English is a beautifully horrible language. It's like an amalgamation of the worst parts of every language. Absolutely. It's spelling English is the worst. Do you want a pterodactyl or pneumonia? because both of those start with a P, but it's pterodactyl and pneumonia. The French are to blame for a lot of them. And whether you like it or not, the weather is really fantastic here. But it's a little withering on most people. So let's talk about our twos. Make sure to line those twos up. Two. Goose geese. Oh, plurals. Plurals is the worst because it's like, how do you make a word plural? And people would be like, oh, that's easy. You put an S on it. And you're like, well, for like 50% of the things, that's true. But but like, no, because it's not gooses, it's geese. Why is it geese? I don't know why it's geese, but that's what it is. It's geese. Also, just fun fact here, it's not Canadian geese. It's not Canadian geese. It's Canada geese and Canada goose because that's its name. It's not like they're from Canada. It's not like they're Canadian geese coming here. The name of the goose is Canada goose. So I don't think you should make it Canadian. Anyways, that was always interesting. You brought up goose. I had to talk about it. Look, and we will do it much better in Rust later, I promise. Aha! And now I'm getting excited about this feature. Build pack static file. Is there a build pack? Ooh, static file build pack. We might have to write our own build pack. An app or content that requires no backend code other than Nginx. I think somebody's already done it. Oh, cool. I'm going to throw this in here. This might actually be super simple. Now, again, it assumes that wherever you the repo that you pass the code is already compiled if it needs compiling. Yeah. It will expect the dist folder to be there effectively. All right. Quick and dirty plan. Dutch, I think yours is a little bit worse than mine. I feel like mine actually has a semblance of... I actually also love yours at the same time. That should be a stream. We should do that sometime. Quick and dirty plan. Wrap everything in a Nginx container and serve it. Open questions. Do we need to do different things for different things for different platforms? AKA React versus Solid versus... I'm feeling like we might need to build some of these like in a I I I don't know. I don't know. Do we need to Do we need to support building, or can we assume that all artifacts are built? All right, other open questions that we have going this approach. So I would think, if this was me from the UI, I would say that I have a React app and I would click it and it would ask for the Git repo of the React app. I would give it the Git repo, the GitHub repo, and it would automatically be there. Now, what I don't know is if we're expecting them to have it already built, like, do npm build and push that out to a branch. Like that would be the convenient way, is if that was actually in a branch. Like you could have like a slash release branch, and that's where you build out to when you release. Is that how we want to do it? Or do we want to say that we'll just take whatever branch and we'll build a React. We have a React build container. If so, we should focus on React first. So if any of the open questions are true, we should probably... What should we probably do? We should probably just support one. Probably React. All right, we need a CDN so that people can deploy their static sites. This does not include work to make a build pipeline for static content. I'm not going to add this. I don't know. I don't know if it's a necessity, I guess, is what I'm at. I don't know if we have to have this for it to work. Wrap everything in Nginx container and serve it. This looks promising. And we have some open questions. I think this is good. Is there any other open questions that you guys can think of? So basically, I think these are two related questions. So basically, if we need to do something to build it, it's probably going to be different for each platform. And then how do we want to handle that? If we don't need to do anything different, if we can just say you have, and maybe this is the thing, version 1, we say you have to have it built on a thing. And then version 2, we can build it for you. I'd like it to be build. There is multiple builders per platform. So that's why I was thinking, so Dutch, correct me if I'm wrong, but Can we not just say they have to build it out and deploy it on a different branch built, like actually build out the static files and then deploy that to like a release branch and I can follow that branch? Is that not an okay statement? So that I don't have to worry about what tools you build with? But okay, so I guess I'm not asking if I can say that. Even to like a separate branch? You think it's bad to push it even to like a separate branch? That's what GitHub Pages makes you do. GitHub Pages makes you push to a separate branch. Well, Dutch, I'm just trying to find an easy solution. I mean, do you just want to do yarn and it's either. Okay, we have two choices. I'm going to let you guys vote. I'm going to make it a poll. How do I make it a poll? Here we go. I'm polling like a pro. New poll. Support everything but build nothing. Or support React and Yarn. So it only lets me type so much, so it's going to be support R and Y for React and Yarn. So first answer is everything, no building. And the second response is just React and Yarn. Let me know. Let me know what you think would be. What I'd like to do is make it work for the most people possible, as simply as possible. Like with everything else, all you've had to do at this point is point it to a repository. I'm not going to say that no configuration is ever going to be needed, but that is like the goal, as little as possible. So I like the idea of actually purposefully building it, but I also don't know how in the weeds I'm going to get. All right, know how to build the React app. My goal is to make it where you don't have to know how to containerize your app to deploy it quickly and easily, I guess would be my thing. I actually want to, right now I don't support you building your own container image, but I'd like to support that in the future as well. Like if you build your own image, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know. All right, so and I'm talking just initially. So I'm talking just initially, we can support just React then. So I want to remove the Docker file. Right. So far, nobody has a Docker file. None of these projects need a Docker file. So I got only one vote that says support everything, no building. Okay, and maybe I wasn't clear. By no building, I mean my service doesn't build it. You have to build it. You have to know how to build it. And you have to build that and commit it to a branch. That's what no building means, right? Or are you saying we should support everything and we should build it? figure out how to build it. If that's the case, we can do it. We'll just have a lot more tickets. You voted that. Okay, so we do the building later. Right now we say point us to a branch that has it built, is what you're saying. I'll give some time for delay. Okay. That's what we'll do. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do things that would get people interested and get people working, and then we can make it actually better first or later. Obviously, there's a lot to do here. Land and expand. Okay. That's what we're doing. Landing and expanding. We'll land. That's for sure. Whether we expand past my Rust application, that's a second question. So let's reword this. Wrap everything in an Nginx container and serve it. Need to give instructions, maybe even a demo GitHub action to build and publish your application to a branch. This is what GitHub Pages does. GitHub Pages does not know how to build your application. They expect you to use GitHub Actions. If you build it, they might come. Well, honestly, I don't want people to come in the first place. At the start is what I'm saying. I'd like for my Twitch chat to use it and see how they like it. And if it's something that's really cool, maybe we can take it to the next level. But I won't be able to support more than like 20 people actively using it. Actually, if you're actively deploying stuff, maybe only like 5 people. So, yeah. Won't afford the expand part. Wrap everything in Nginx container and serve it. Need to give instructions, maybe a GitHub action demo to build and publish your application to a branch. And we don't have this. Right now we just work on the default branch. And we need to ensure our service has the ability to watch a specific branch. You're just here for code reviews and follow messages. I actually want to do a series on code reviews. If people find interesting code to review in open source, I want to do it because I feel like people don't leverage code reviews well enough. Because for me, a code review is a learning experience. It has 2 things. It's there to make sure that you have good quality code, but it's also a learning experience for both people. It's a time where the reviewer can ask questions, and it's a place where the submitter can submit feedback to those questions. It's a place where a senior engineer can bestow some of the knowledge and be like, hey, this thing here bit me in the butt last time that I did it, and here's why. And I see some of the same patterns here. And a more junior engineer can learn from that. And that's what we need to take our code reviews into. I actually really like, I do async code reviews, but I actually really like doing, I like pair programming for specific things. Hey, you have more than a 5-line code review. Let's sit down together and actually do it. Let's look over the code and let me ask questions. Let you ask questions. Let's walk through it and understand this a bit better. I think code reviews are actually a really underutilized tool. You're a math. Okay, so I've seen it. I am like a in between. I don't think it's very productive for all day. I think it's super productive in scenarios. And if you have a good team that's working well together, they will pair program together automatically. They'd be like, hey, let's tackle this hard problem. But then there's a lot of times where it's like, I got to go bust out these HTTP requests. I don't really need anybody. I'll want a code review eventually. But yeah, I don't know. Bing Chat Code Review. The problem with Bing Chat Code Review is it requires Edge, and I don't have Edge. I have Firefox. So yeah, I do like code reviews. So there was a company here, or it still exists. They do mandatory code review or pair programming. Period. Like you share a cubicle with another developer. Period. That's your guys's cubicle, and only one keyboard and one computer, and it's like the most asinine thing I have. I absolutely hate it. Oh, you're a user agent switcher. I could do that. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that's the way to do it. But yeah, I think if you're in a company now, open source, you do code review asynchronously a lot of the time. I mean, I'll obviously do code reviews on Eddington publicly if the person is okay with it. Because again, code reviews are not to shame people, are not to make them feel bad. I do like watching Linus shame people in code reviews, but that's more kicks and giggles because he comes up with sayings that you just would never have thought of to humiliate people. Like I never would have thought of that to say to somebody, even if I thought they were stupid. Just would never have thought of it. And so I find his code reviews hilarious. But the whole thing is you can really learn from it. And so I think code review is like the best thing because then you can have a conversation while going. It's not this static thing. It's so much better. All right, wrap everything in an Nginx container and serve it. Need to give instructions. Maybe you have to build and publish your application to a branch, and we need to ensure our service has the ability to watch a specific branch. Right now, we don't watch. You actually have to push a button to get the newest changes. It would be nice to actually listen to events on all of the repos, but that's another webhook that we have to implement. That's a whole nother thing that we'll have to do. Maybe at that point where we get to that point, we'll actually make it its own service. I feel like the webhook should make an event on our system, and it should be like an integration, and we should just be listening for those events. That's how I would like to program it. So I'm going to see if the watching, especially the webhook, we can push off to a point. So basically, you'd have to press a button every single time you wanted to deploy. That container and serve it. Need to give instructions. Okay. I think this looked good. I think this looks possible. Sorry for the flashbang. So we can do 64 megs of RAM. That's fantastic. We'll have to look at this configuring this. We won't make them have a static file. I don't want to do that. I just want to do it from the root. That will be the thing. Like when you do your build onto a branch, do it at the root. Our ingress only allows HTTPS, so they actually are already forced to HTTPS, unfortunately, for them. Okay, good. So we can just do this through a configuration without the file. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. I think this is going to work great. I think that's going to work great. Dude, Dutch, I think that ChatGPT is doing what you did. Just embed it into in a Go server. That's horrifying. That's horrifying. We have SSL termination. We're close. We don't have edge. We are the edge. We are the edge. We have load balancing. Cool. We got half of it. All right. Let's file this issue. Building these things. So if we step 2 in this will be step 1. Step 2 in this, I actually don't think is as bad as I'm thinking it is. I think the easiest way is basically to build containers where we clone the repository, we mount it into the build container, and then we run the build. And then we take those files and put them in this build pack. Okay, that actually got a little bit more complicated than I was hoping. Never mind. Scratch that one. I'll have to think about step 2 for this. I feel like maybe this is where we have a lot of improvement to go, where people want to host. There's other places that host static files. I need to look at those. We need to do research. We need to see how other people, like, what the workflow is. If I have a static React site, how do those sites host it? Like, what do I have to tell them? Because that's what I'd like to shoot towards. That's my goal, is to be better than them, actually. All right. That's it for me tonight. I got to get going. I got some work to catch up on. And I don't know. It felt like a long day. I don't feel like I was particularly productive, but man, these good first issues, I think we nailed them. I think we half engineered them. Same, but in my company, there is nobody who likes to pair program. I think pair programming, if done right, everybody would like. Man, filing. Well, good luck in your workday, Shadow Dragon. I hope that it's a fantastic day. Filing tickets does drain you. I feel like the what makes you a good PM is if you get excited about filing tickets. I feel like every PM that I've ever met is like, oh yes, let's make more tickets. We need more tickets. I'm just teasing PMs now. Just teasing PMs. All right, everyone have a fantastic morning, evening, night, afternoon, lunch, dinner, breakfast. Say hello to your boss for me, Shadow Dragon. That would be weird. Don't do that.